Mark, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me on, brother. It's been a long time coming. We've had a few scheduling mishaps here and there, but it's great to be here and love your background. So much personality.
Dude, I
Love it.
appreciate it. You know, it's funny. I just had a conversation with my wife about the background because everybody talks about it. It's become a great networking tool for me because somebody will come on and be like, oh, I know Trent Shelton or I know Andy Frisella or I know whoever's, over my shoulder at this
Yeah.
point. But I'm making a change. I told you I bought a whole entire teleprompter set up and I'm switching it. So I'll have a different background in a month or two. But it's been a good probably 5 years. I'm like, it's time to switch it up. But I appreciate you saying that.
I noticed JP Sears. Actually, my wife and I went to his comedy show in Nashville at Zany's a couple weeks ago. Guy's friggin' hilarious. And I might be the only one to notice he's jacked too. Like, dude has an arm vein sticking out. And I'm like, all right, and it was an extremely fun event. So I just noticed him and I'm like, oh, wait, I know these people. This is awesome. Andy's a good friend of mine. So appears we have similar connections.
Yeah, man. It's really funny because JP obviously, and we talked a little bit about this before we recorded and didn't know we'd go down this road at least this early. JP has become a disruptor in many ways. Whereas before, when he was on my show, because we're going back years ago, I'm over 500 episodes. He was episode 853. So
Oh, wow.
it was a long time ago. But he was the spiritual guy, right? Like, so he had the funny videos about being vegan and doing those types of things. And
So
now,
good.
but he's made a great shift. And I think it
Yeah.
speaks a lot to him as a creator and him as a person who kind of steps up and says, hey, I've always kind of talked about something controversial. I'm just pissing people off more. And I mean, is that what you've did you know him, but like, did you know his comedy before? Or did you get into him later?
I watched him when I think he was dousing himself in coconut oil and cutting himself shaving. That was a hilarious one. He had the what if a meat eater talked like a vegan.
Yes.
That was hilarious. And he reminds me a lot of my good friends, the Hodge twins, Keith and Kevin, who I've done videos with since 2011. We did our first video together. And they actually I was on a reality show called American Grit. They came to my launch party in 2016. Been friends with them for years. Haven't talked to them in a couple of years, to be honest. But like, these are guys who used to hang out, ride together, like hang out together. And they went conservative. Now they're the conservative twins. But the thing is, they've always been conservative. It's not a grift for them. First time I remember I'm driving and Keith is here, Kevin's there, and my buddy Van was in the back next to, I think it was, they look the same. They're twins. They all look the same. No, they're twins. They're twins. It's not because they're black. It's because they're twins. And so I remember like Kevin started going off ranting about like abortion or some like right-wing topic, and at the time, like I wasn't really political at the time. I didn't really think talking about this was a good thing. And he's like going off and I'm like, oh, well, these guys are conservatives. And then I'm like, so they're actually, I think right now they're more true to who they are than when they were fitness. Now, don't get me wrong. When they were fitness, they were jacked.
Yeah.
They used to joke around about having BBC genetics. I don't know if you watch their old stuff. Hilarious. And so I think that what we're seeing now is that you can't have you have to have an opinion. And if you don't have an opinion, you're guilty of not having the opinion they want. For example, the black squares. Now, because my partners at one of my brands who are they're not white guys, right? But they put up black squares for, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And I'm the third partner and I see them put it up at that time before Black Lives Matter was outed as basically a money laundering scheme. I mean, we can all agree to that. I think
100%.
Okay. But here's my thinking. And again, this is before I really got involved. I didn't really care until like 2021. I didn't really get that into the weeds and I wish I didn't. And it's like,
it's that rabbit hole.
Well, the marketing was amazing. They're like, oh, of course, Black Lives Matter. Yes. I do not think we should kill black people. So I'm like, black square. So I put it up. We're good. So for our company, tigerfitness.com, we were at a quandary because we don't hire based on political affiliation. We had an intern working for us who was marching in some not peaceful protests. We had a bunch of conservatives. We had some Democrats. Again, they don't really talk about, everybody gets along. Like we're a company, our company culture goes above politics. And I remember we're like, should we post the black square? And I'm like, nah, don't bother. Like, it's not a company's place. I'll do it as myself. So like, dude, we got hate mail for not posting it. People were like, how dare you not post? I knew you were white supremacist. And of course, our customer said, well, our CMO posted it. And here he is. Oh, okay, that's fine. So it was like, if you didn't post it, you were immediately a white supremacist.
Yeah.
And it was the weirdest thing. And that's not like, hold on, something's weird, where it became, companies used to be able to be apolitical, but now it's gotten to the point where you have to say what you believe in. You have to wear it on your sleeve. You cannot not have a political side. It's gotten that bad. So the Hodge twins were just, screw it, man. We're conservatives, and God bless them. They made a ton of, I'm guessing they're doing well for themselves. They're giving away trucks.
Yeah.
I don't give away trucks, and I've done pretty well for myself. Right. And JP is friggin' crushing it. So look, man, I think it's at the point where you have the, what do they call it? The parallel economy, where you have everything in the past was like what they would call woke. But then you have this other economy that is also prosperous. So people are choosing sides. Like, well, I'd rather have 80% of 50% than 5% of 100%, right? Because you're going to make someone mad. I could be the most apolitical man on earth, but because I didn't post a black square, all of a sudden I'm a Jewish Nazi. By the way, I'm Jewish. So it's like, none of it made sense to me. So now it's like, you know what? Let's just be honest. And whatever happened to having open dialogue and learning from each other? Because I learn when I have debates with people, but it seems like people are so tribal and stuck in their little box that they just won't open their minds and have that logical conversation of, why do I believe this? So that's kind of where I see those two. That went far from complimenting your background.
Yeah. We started talking about JP Sears, and here we are. But it's so funny. Everything you're saying is so true, and I think the reality is curiosity always wins. And I think people stopped being curious and started being over opinionated. And this is both sides. This is everybody involved. It can no longer be, oh, hey, like you mentioned, hey, let's talk about this. Let's have a conversation. I had a guy on my podcast. I don't remember his name, unfortunately, but he wrote a book called The Second Civil War. And essentially talking about how this is designed.
Yeah.
It's a design, right? Like they designed it on purpose to create power from the top down. And so my thought process is this: it should be we versus them, not me versus you. And if we can get to that point of we versus them, hopefully we get back to a place of normalism when it comes to divide and separation. That's kind of where I stand on all of these issues, no matter where you stand, right? I've got friends on both sides super far, and I love both of them equally. And I hope they like me equally, right? And if you can figure that out, I think that's how we're going to prosper as humans, right? Like that's how we're all going to be able to hit our goals, live the life that we want, whatever that looks like, and that's just the reality. But I want to talk a little bit about you, man, and talk a little bit about your journey, right? And if anybody looks you up online, they're going to immediately go, holy crap, that guy is jacked. He is huge. You're a professional bodybuilder. Not only are you CEO of all these businesses, you're the CEO of your body and the way you want to build it as well. I want to go back in your life a little bit, turn back the clock. What got you into bodybuilding? Why has it become such a lifestyle for you?
For me, it's not about bodybuilding. It's about health and fitness, which is kind of the antithesis of bodybuilding. I actually just put a YouTube video out about a guy who got to 300 pounds. He was shown today, couldn't put on his socks. Like bodybuilding in its pure form, getting as big and jacked as possible is not healthy. It's just not healthy, because to get that big and jacked, you have to take a lot of drugs a lot of the times to get to that level. Now, my level, I mean, you could take a little bit of drugs, right? Like you could probably, there's been people who've achieved my level naturally, right? It's happened. I think people will say they're not natural, but what am I going to do? Am I going to blood test everybody who claims, like, I don't know. They say they're natural, innocent before proven guilty. I don't think I look that great. I'm a low level pro. I'm not great. I'm not winning shows. But I'll put up a fight. Right. I'll put up a good fight. But honestly, I got into health and fitness because my parents, my dad died of complications of type 2 diabetes, and my mom's a drug addict. So I wanted to do the opposite of them. And I also noticed that my parents didn't have much money. I also wanted to make money. And you can't make money if you're sick and you're on drugs. It just won't work. Unless, of course, you're Keith Richards. That worked well for him.
Very well.
But very well, very well. So anyway, when I was when I was in my teens, I definitely I knew I wasn't going to get to where I wanted to go unless I played sports. And to play sports, I needed to lift weights. And I happened to be really good at football. And I was able to go to college based on my football skills, based on what I was able to do, despite being undersized and, the size of a giant midget, basically 5'8" right? So I was able to do that, but I also I wanted to do exactly the opposite of what my parents did because I saw what their life was. My family at one point had money. We had not like rich money, but my dad worked he had a good government job. He was an auditor, a tax guy, for the state of Illinois. And so we had good middle class money, had a house. And my mom, due to her addictions, we lost it all, foreclosed on the house, ended up living in an apartment. My dad ended up getting really sick, lost his vision, lost his hearing. So I had to see all this, and I'd see my dad get dragged away on an ambulance, and there's so many stories. And I had to see things with my mom and her abuse problem that I can't even say right now. Things that I can never tell my children because they're too horrific. Things that my wife, I've told her some of it, but I can't even speak on it. Things that I'm just now remembering because I repressed it that long. And so for me, the gym, health and fitness was a way for me to get out. And thankfully I was able to procure a position at Weeder Publications, which is the magazines, Flex, Muscle and Fitness, Muscle Fitnessers, Men's Fitness. I got a job there, believe it or not, before I even graduated college at 19 years old. So I was able to work there, work my way up. By that time, they were acquired by American Media, which owns Inquirer, The Star, Mira en Español, Country Weekly. So I was able to move up the corporate ladder by the age of 23, make a good amount, make more money than I think any 23-year-old usually makes. I was really good at my job, and I was willing to work 18-hour days. Didn't care. But because I didn't want to be broke. I didn't want to lose it. And so I had this opportunity and I didn't waste 1 second. And then I had an opportunity at 24 years old. I started my first business, was called Scivation. Came out with a product called Extend, which was the first intra-workout BCAA product to really hit it big, popularize that category. They're now still around. It's owned by Cellucor. So it's been, so bodybuilding to me came when I was 25 years old after starting Scivation. And nobody was buying our products, to be honest with you. We were selling a little bit, but not enough to be profitable. So at that time, there were message boards and we didn't have social media. Like right now, I could put a social media post, everybody knows everything. Yeah. Back then, we had message boards, bodybuilding.com message boards. And I went on there and I was blogging what I was doing. And I decided, hey, I've never done this before. I'm going to try competing. And so I went in, I blogged, and I competed, and I got first place in the show. And you want to know why? There was no one else in my category. There's no one else. I was the only one. I was the only one.
A win is a win.
But it was a fat dub. I got the trophy. And long story short, I looked and our sales spiked a little bit, and I kept doing it and doing it and doing it. This is back in 2007. This is 2006, 2007. And then I just kept doing it, and it doesn't really benefit my business anymore. And that's why for me, it's just a compulsion with competing. But man, that was why I got into bodybuilding. It wasn't because I loved it. It wasn't because I wanted to be like Arnold. Man, I was just trying not to go out of business, bro. Like I was trying to make money but I was actually doing it. Like I was out there, and it was how I started the competing thing. But I'm not like bodybuilding for me. I love it. I love the sport. I've always loved the sport, but I understand the genetics and what it takes to be a great bodybuilder. And I'm just not that guy. But I was able to get my pro card in 2021 after taking 7 years off to box. Wow. And I came back and got my pro card. And, that's where bodybuilding fits in for me. So bodybuilding is definitely a part of who I am. Having an IFBB pro card is one of the greatest accomplishments of my life outside of it's my greatest athletic accomplishment. I'm a professional athlete, but at the end of the day, man, bodybuilding is such an amazing sport with amazing athletes and individuals that I think a lot of people misunderstand that, I'm proud to be an IFBB pro. But for me personally, the potential health implications of being a better bodybuilder aren't worth it. Because I have 3 kids, I have a beautiful wife, I live in a really cool house in a really great neighborhood. I want to live till I'm like 200 years old.
I hear that, man. Yeah. It's so funny when you get to that point in your life and you look around, you go, wow, I've really built something great for myself. You're like, I don't want this to end. Right. I'm turning 40 in August of this year. And
welcome to the club.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I'm going, oh my God, like I had a weird, I'm kind of over it now, but for a moment I had like a weird midlife crisis. Not I wanted to go buy the Corvette, right? But from a standpoint of like, oh my God, I don't want this to end. And so there was like this mental freak out from all that stuff. But I want to go back in your life a little bit. You
Yeah.
talked about your mom and her addiction. So something you don't know about me, I knew this, I knew that about you. My mom battled opioids for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Which it ultimately took her life 6 months before I launched this podcast. So it's been eight and a
So
half
sorry
years.
to hear that. Wow.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's in it, but you speak to it from a point of being the kid in that scenario, right? And so I want to ask you a question that people ask me all the time. So you've gone on and you've created multiple successful businesses. You've gone on to create a beautiful family for yourself, a beautiful life. There's another side to a story with kids whose parents are addicts, which is they become an addict or they become a failure, or they become whatever. What do you think is the separation there? Is it fear? Is it desire? Where did you learn all this from? Like, what is all the mindset behind that move?
Oh, that's tough. I was fortunate to have a good brother. You know, I don't usually talk about that, but yeah, yeah, I have a brother who's 6 years older than me. He's very successful. He works for a company called Cataboom. They have these cool little sweepstakes things they put on sites. He's done things. He was a senior VP at Prize Logic. You know, McDonald's Monopoly was one of their projects. So he's a very successful guy. But my brother was always there to kind of lead me up until, of course, he moved out to go to college. But, you know, being able to watch my brother in the world while I'm in a situation, you know, going in, getting his degree, getting his first job with Kmart at the time as a buyer, you know, it's just, you look at that, having that leadership, but honestly, beyond my brother, it was sports. My life was completely saved by a coach, two coaches, and Coach Miles and Coach Scott McCrillah at Culver City High School. You know, Coach Miles, I was going through my stuff and my sophomore going into my junior year. That's when my dad's health issues really got bad. My mom was just in the mental hospital all the time. And you know, Coach Miles took me under his wing. We trained daily with another guy named our outside linebacker's name was Leon Hatton. So sports saved me. I was saved by a coach. And then when I was a senior, this back before we had digital cameras, and we used to take all my game films and Coach McCrillah would help me like put them onto a VHS tape. And we would send them off to the colleges for recruiters because we couldn't just tweet them. Like we had to actually mail them. We had to go to the post office and mail a VHS. And, you know, Coach Miles, you know, he didn't know what he was doing, but maybe he did. Coach Miles is a reverend. So there's another thing. So again, I think it was for me. And that's why I started Legacy at Carbon. Which is a youth performance facility, because coaching is, I don't think coaches understand. And I don't care if you're coaching low income or wealthy kids, like the impact a coach can have. And actually I have a sign right there. A good coach can change a game. A great coach can change a life. And for me to be able to coach, and even coaching my son's football team this year, it's like, and my dad, before he got sick, like he coached my little league team. And I told this story the other day, like my dad, like I remember he had a stroke, ambulance took him to the hospital, and Coach McCrillah actually came to my house to tell me what's going on. I got to my apartment, the ambulance. I'm like, I knew it was him. And, you know, my dad, I don't know how he got there because we didn't have Uber, but I looked up and I remember running on the field. We ran through the tunnel, ran through the banner, and I look up and my dad was sitting in the stands. So I'll never forget that. And for me, being a part of my kid's life and sports, I mean, that's what saved me. If it wasn't for football, if it wasn't for the weight room, I would be dead right now, because the shit I was doing outside of sports, before I got really into it, I'd have been dead 100%. I'd have been here right now. So that's why my life revolves around sports. All my kids play sports. The rule in my house is you have to do two sports. You have to have a combat sport and a team sport. And that's our rule. And all my kids have done it. My daughter's 18. She said, screw you, I'm doing both of them. But she's already on her way. Like, I don't know if I'm allowed, I'm going to say it, but she literally just got in as most people don't get in directly, as she's going to the Kelly School of Business next year.
Wow.
Indiana University. That's where Mark Cuban went. I'm like, yeah, you got in there? And I'm like, holy shit, it costs how much? And we're not getting financial aid.
Yeah.
So
I'm too damn successful.
but my daughter, she boxed. She has a regional championship of wrestling. She's a state champion soccer player. Sports is the main reason I think that she's been able to do what she's done. And my kids are wrestlers. My youngest plays football. I coach him. I mean, sports are everything. So if there's one take home for any parent watching this, have your kids at least try. Like my daughter only wrestled 1 year, but she boxed before then, whether it's Muay Thai, good old fashioned, Karate Kid karate, boxing. All my kids have boxed competitively, have your kid do a combat sport and a team sport. And I guarantee you this, I can't guarantee you have a perfect kid. They'll be much better than if they didn't do either of those.
I love it, man. And such great advice. Obviously earlier you were talking about taking drugs to get stronger. You were talking about all those types of things. I believe I couldn't find it when I went back and looked, but I saw a reel that was created by your daughter, which was like me and then me with steroids.
Oh,
and I was like,
that
oh
one
my
went
God.
viral, didn't it? my biggest reel ever was my daughter making fun of me. I'm basically, I mean, there's not many IFBB pro bodybuilders chilling around high school athletes, or students. And, so my whole thing is I'm honest. Like in 2013, I got a pro card with NABA, which is it was a competitor IFBB completely buried them. And I took a pretty aggressive steroid cycle. And I've done videos about that. And I think I would have won the pro card without taking a steroid cycle like that. But I've been on TRT. My body I overdid it. Like I told you about what I did between the ages of 20, before the age of 24, like working for American media. Bro, I burnt out my system to the point where my testosterone was below 100 at 27 years old.
Wow.
So I've been on testosterone replacement therapy. I took it beyond TRT, back when in 2023, but in 2013, I don't know, that shit's gonna be, he said it. He took a cycle in 2023. And I mean, so I came back to bodybuilding and, I was on TRT and there was this whole thing on the internet where people were really mad at me because they thought I was on like crazy shit. I'm getting hate mail. Like this dude did this whole like thing blasting me. It was kind of funny. But it does get to you sometimes because you're like, dude, just leave me alone. Let me enjoy. Like this is the day after I got back from like competing in the New York Pro, which is my dream to compete in a pro show. And like all of a sudden I'm getting all these, hey, look what this guy said. I'm like, just don't tell me about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the joke is like, I'm that dad on steroids, right? So like there's this whole TikTok thing going on where kids are like me and me with my wallet and it's their dad, or me with my savings and whatever. And so my daughter goes, hey, what if I did this joke? I'm like, that is hilarious. Do it. And I thought like 10 people would look at it. Next thing you know, like it goes viral. It's got like over 2.5 million like hits. It's crazy.
That is crazy, dude. And so let's talk a little bit about TRT and testosterone. Obviously,
as a middle-aged man, it. Right?
Yeah. So I have a buddy who, and he was saying to me that his testosterone was at like 820, 840 because he gets tested regularly, all natural. And then he moved and got super depressed. And just kind of destroyed him, right? Lost his friend circle because he moved, all the things, and then just got tested again. His testosterone levels are in the 400s. Like just from the mental side of things. So he's trying to do a bunch of natural stuff to boost the testosterone. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about how can somebody boost their testosterone naturally? Because I heard a rumor, and I don't know if it's true, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe once you start TRT, it's something you have to continuously do.
Sort of. There are ways to mitigate that, but I'm not a fan. If you can stave off being on TRT as long as possible. What that means, if you can go till 90 years old and die peacefully and happily and healthily without TRT, do it. However, most men, whether it's environmental, whether it's stress, whether it's just genetic, your testosterone starts to drop. At the age of 25, stuff just starts going downhill. For some men, that might be 1%. For some men, that might be 50%. And it depends a lot on environmental. So the number one thing, let's not talk about how to increase testosterone. Let's talk about how to put your body in the most favorable position to not decrease testosterone, to optimize its own production. So number one is sleep. And we used to brag about how you don't sleep. Like I used to do it all the time. So my old nickname, I don't use it much, called the machine. Mm-hmm. So you might MTS Nutrition Machine Training Solutions, machine. So the machine is because I didn't sleep. It's because I worked all the time and I didn't sleep. Stupid, right? That's dumb. You should get adequate sleep. So if you're looking at maximizing your testosterone, you make sure you get 8 hours of sleep. I don't care how you do it. I don't care what you have to sacrifice. 7, no, 6, no. If you are after optimal, you get at least 8 hours. Now, 7 is good, 6 is good, but we're looking at optimizing.
Yeah.
Get that sleep. I'd say 7 to 9. Let's say 7 to 9, with 7 being the worst case scenario. And I don't do that now. I don't do that. I have kids. Sometimes
Tough,
sports
man.
can go till 10. Yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Another thing would be dietary, right? So we want to make sure that we're getting adequate fat in our diet. We're not on a super low fat diet. That doesn't mean eat so much fat, at least 0.3 grams per pound of body weight. What does that mean? If you have 100 pounds, okay, that's 30 grams of carbs, 30 grams of fat. Sorry. So 200-pound guy, 60 grams, but that would be the minimum. So I always say 0.3 to 0.5. And of course, don't be fat. Being fat is terrible for you. It will kill you. Being fat is like smoking. It might not be the reason you die, but it will definitely be a part of the reason you die. So don't be fat. It also, if you look at the initial, from the thing that hit in 2020, if you look at the initial like data of people came to the hospital, 78% of people admitted to New York City hospitals were obese, overweight.
Yeah, I heard it was like 80%. It was
It's
like
probably
massive.
even higher.
Yeah.
Because they weren't really honest at that time. So yeah, so don't be fat. Make sure you get certain minerals and vitamins in your diet. Vitamin D, zinc, those are things you need to make sure. And there are natural testosterone boosters. They help. You know, like there's one ingredient, Primavia, it's a shilajit extract. I have it in one of my products called Insurgent. Again, not a sales piece. I'm just giving you data. And I have to kind of say that don't buy it if you don't want to, but it's basically 20% increase in free and total test. But I'm going to give you a caveat because I'm honest. The study was done in sarcopenic old people. Sarcopenia means people who are they're muscle wasting.
Yeah.
So they're people who have muscle wasting diseases, but it increased their testosterone by 20% and their free test by 20%. But think about it, if you're at 100, that gets you to 120. Is that enough to write home about? I'd say so. But
Sure.
you know, if you think about it, if you were to take a steroid cycle, that 100 put you to about 10,000. So it's not steroid-like. It's not steroid-like. It just puts you in a better environment to have adequate test. So I think those are the main things. Be active, do your cardio. Don't do too much cardio, get your rest. And I would say people like overtraining. Look, man, it's really hard to overtrain if you're getting 8 hours of sleep a night because you run out of time in the day. I'm assuming y'all have jobs. You like to sit down a little bit. So unless you're literally waking up and training all day, I wouldn't worry about overtraining, and weight training would be good too.
Yeah.
Weight training 3 days a week. Other than that, man, and chill is try to be as stress. You're never going to be stress free. Your body needs stress. You need stress, but try to mitigate your anxiety and your stress levels as much as possible. But maximizing natural test, again, TRT is a last resort. TRT is pulling the ripcord, the plane. There's no way you're going to write it. You have to hit that button. You're out, and that's your parachute, right? Like, don't do it unless you need it. But if you need it, it's a lifesaver. It's a game changer for mental health, physical health, and even heart health long-term. You're worse off based on the data that I've read from my extrapolation, from my understanding of the data, it's more dangerous to be low in testosterone than it is to correct it with TRT on your cardiovascular health.
Yeah, dude. I mean, all great points. And obviously I'm in a world now where I got in super shape in 2021, super shape for me. In 2021, got married in April of this last year, gained all the weight back. And so now I am now in a place of like working out regularly, meaning every single day.
How do you feel?
I feel great.
Yes.
Feel great.
It's awesome.
Like,
it's the best.
And so finally getting back to that cycle. So I actually have a pinched disc in my neck, which literally I have an app that tracks my workouts. I was able to work out workout meaning lifting weights. So I could go for a walk and stuff like that. But I could lift weights 44 days last year. Everything fell apart. I was just like dead to the world, right? My whole left arm pretty much went numb. And so now I'm in a place through chiropractic, all natural kind of healing type of stuff. I can now start lifting again, but it's absolutely game changing for my mental clarity, how I'm feeling. I'm dropping weight, gaining muscle back, doing all these things. How much do you believe to the success of life, to the success of health, to the success of building muscle is just consistency. It doesn't even have to be over the top, just consistency.
Consistency is everything in business, in health. So consistency can work. So if you're consistently bad, right? Like, what is that? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
So, I mean, once you hone in on that routine, that discipline, like the human mind and the human body loves habit. That's when people are like, oh, I need to start working. I'm like, cool, go first thing in the morning and do it 3 weeks in a row. And one of the tricks, it's in the, is that Glassner, Charles Glassner, who wrote the book of Habit. I believe it's Glassner. But anyway, so his thing is wake up before you go to bed. I added this one in, put your pre-workout shake, put the powder in the cup, put it on the counter, put your clothes out and set your alarm. Cause you got to have everything ready. So you have less excuses to go, and do that for 3 weeks and your body gets programmed into that routine. And so if you have and also look at the new data on heart health and circadian rhythm, and I think Andrew Huberman talks a lot about this, and because that's what, like, he gives a lot of opinions on a lot of topics he has no idea about. Yeah. And I learned this when he started talking about supplements, and I'm like, wow, I know he has a PhD in like eye health, but this is ridiculous. But now because he's like the eye guy, like he's like giving opinions on supplements, be like, well, Huberman said, and I'm like, dude, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. I don't give a crap what degree level he has. But nonetheless, Huberman is a genius. Sometimes I do this too. I don't want to be that guy, stay in your lane. I want to hear his opinion, but that doesn't mean it can't be questioned, right? That's all I'm saying. Yeah. I love Huberman. I listen to all his stuff. Love the guy. But like his thing is the shit he's done with circadian rhythm, like getting up in the morning, getting sunlight in your eyes, regulating sleep, some crazy stuff he said, like, well, man, if you want to build muscle, you want to eat your protein mainly before 10 a.m. I'm like, what the hell is this man talking? I literally heard him say that. And I literally was like, nobody's going to call him out on this? If I said something like that, bro, it would be on every hater's YouTube page today. I'm like, but this man can say everything. People are like, hey, man, I got 200 grams of protein at 9:52 a.m. I'm like, where did he read this data from? Some obscure journal in Pakistan? Like, anyway, I'm like, this is our science. But anyway, Huberman's a genius nonetheless. And what he's done with circadian rhythm, I think that we're on a precipice where we can almost say, hey, here are some things you could do and your life will be so friggin' awesome. And it's pretty simple. Exercise, get sunlight. I mean, these are all things we learned during the 2020 viral season. Is that word okay to say here?
Yeah, I think so. I just had an old episode get taken down off of YouTube because we were talking about healing yourself with food. So, you can't ever win.
I just got my warning taken away and my views have doubled. I had a warning for saying that those things that went over your face, that they might not be the greatest thing. And I got a warning and it literally shadow banned my channel. It came off January 30th and they're like, we don't shadow ban. All of a sudden my views go through the roof. I'm like, oh, I got you.
Dude, I just met Dr. Drew at an event that I was at. So Loveline, he's coming on the show here soon.
Yes,
he talked outwardly about that stuff. And so I sat in a small room with him, probably 15 other podcasters and his wife, and they discussed like how they streamed all things, right? So they're over on what's the one that Russell
Spotify?
Brand is on? No,
Rumble.
Yeah, Rumble. So he was saying on Rumble, and then we were on YouTube, and we'd say certain things on YouTube, and we would just get shut down, and we'd have to automatically send hey, here's the link to Rumble just in case we get shut down. And he's like, so we just came up with code words because they found out through like whatever AI algorithm they have, they just start knocking things down.
I called it the Mexican beer virus.
That's good.
And it got
that works.
Yeah, but the thing is, it was there's nothing you could do about it, man. And Rumble is such a clunky site, and unless you're talking about like this stuff and like fitness topics, fitness channels, everyone's like, you should go on Rumble. Like, I'm there. That's how bad it is. You couldn't even find me on there because it's such a horrible interface. Like, Say what you will about the left. Man, do they have great social media outlets, dude.
Amen.
YouTube is elite. YouTube is elite. And for that, it's like, well, we need to build our own. I'm like, good job with Rumble, guys. I can't figure out how to use it. And I literally do this. Like, I was trying to figure out how to upload directly to Rumble and build a channel. YouTube, it's like, click channel, yay. And 1,000 subscribers later, I could give it a name.
Yeah.
Okay. But on Rumble, it's like deciphering some kind of an ancient Egyptian code. And I'm like, who built this thing? This is a mess. So I just do it where it automatically goes to Rumble when I put it
from
on YouTube,
right? Like they literally have like a button, I think now that links from YouTube to Rumble.
And it automatically uploads it there. And I'm just like, I can't deal with this as a separate thing. Yeah. It's a mess. And I wish there was an alternative, but like, man, I don't know. I've made thousands and thousands of dollars on YouTube. The fact that I can monetize basically me doing nothing, like that's pretty cool. I don't even have to sell ads. They do it for me on my videos. I'm like, dude, like this is great. Cause I started it just to do product reviews for Tiger Fitness.
That's awesome.
And next thing you know, I'm making thousands of dollars a month. Not anymore. They've cut the payments dramatically, but like thousands of dollars a month just talking. It's crazy.
Yeah, dude, I'm friends with a guy who he makes ridiculous money from YouTube uploading wrestling video games, like streaming, whatever. And and the crazy thing is he now wrestles like in down in South Carolina. Like his whole as his character that he pretended to be in these wrestling games, he's now that person in real life. And like has created this incredible life for him. So like, you know, we sit here and we bash, but it also provides a great opportunity for so many people. And if you're not taking advantage of it, you're crazy this day and age. Would the Hodge twins even be the Hodge twins if it wasn't for YouTube? We wouldn't know who they were. Yeah. They'd be just two twins from Virginia, from Manassas, Virginia. That's who they'd be. And instead they are the Hodge twins and they are millionaires and they're crushing it. And they have families and they're providing for their families. So like everybody likes to hate on YouTube. And I understand like anytime you object to freedom of speech and you try to, you know, only give one point of view, you're a little bit evil. Okay. You're just a little bit evil. But at the same time, they've given a platform, at least to the fitness community, that we didn't have before 2010. We did not have that. And so for that, again, nothing's perfect, but I think overall YouTube has been, because there's going to be someone, it could be Rumble. They could figure out how to build a site that doesn't suck, but like, you know, they built a platform that allowed a lot of creators to make livings who would have never made a living doing what they love to do. Tim Pool, you know, he's built this empire and it's because of YouTube. Yeah, it's wild, man. So let's go back to nutrition really quick before we get to the end of the conversation here. But obviously there's going to be people listening to this going, okay, great. We're talking about testosterone. We're talking about supplements. We're talking about whatever. Where's a good first place to start? If you're beginning the journey into, look, maybe we don't want to be bodybuilders. Maybe we don't want to be run an ultra marathon, but we want to get fit. Where's a good place to start so we don't feel overwhelmed? Because I feel like when you Google something on the internet these days, like you said, Huberman and all these guys are saying 10,000 different things. Where's a good place to start? So as far as like just giving you the information here, not telling you where to go, because that's another problem, because everywhere you go has 10,000 options. Well, because there's no right way to do things, right? But here's my best practices. Number one is hydrate, and it's not in any particular order. So basically hydrate as you need to, and make sure you have electrolytes in your system, which most people do because most people eat processed food. So make sure to hydrate. Number two, I would say weight train 3+ days a week. Weight train. Now, whatever program you want to do depends on your level. The caveat is if you're obese. If you're obese, I don't want you weight training. I'm talking like obese, like 300+ pounds for most people who aren't 6'10". Yeah. Okay. So if you're obese, walking and swimming, that's enough. Start at 10 minutes, build up to 20 minutes, build up to 30 minutes. Once you get to a weight where you can support yourself and not risk joint and heart issues, then you can add in weight training. But if you are not obese, weight train 3+ days a week, 3 to 5 days a week is fine. Okay. Make sure you get in that hydration. Cardiovascular activity, make sure you get in. The numbers 10,000 is actually an old marketing thing from Japan. It's completely made up, but let's go with that. Who cares? Get your steps in. 6,000, 10,000 steps a day.
That's not that much. You should be able to do that just parking further from the entrance at Walmart. Okay, you're good to go on that. As far as foods are concerned, I'm not going to say eat only protein. I'm not going to say eat only fat, eat only carbs. Most people like to have a variety of foods. And I'm not going to tell you to eliminate a food group, but I will say this: cut out the processed crap. Nobody ever got fat eating chicken and apples. Nobody ever got fat eating that. So cut down your consumption and cut out the junk. If you cut out the junk, at the end of the day, it's calories in, calories out. Most people watching your podcast are not going to take a food scale with them to Arby's. They're just not going to do it. So at the end of the day, you need to eat less. And one way to do that is to cut out the crap. So instead of going to Arby's, maybe go to Chipotle and get a bowl with meat and veggies. Get a salad bowl. There's so many ways you could do that, and you can get it at almost any restaurant. And besides that, those are the main things I would say. Get adequate sunlight. I'm not saying go burn in the sun. Get 15 minutes out, go for a walk outside when the weather's nice, things like that. But I think a lot of people try to find these extreme ways. But for most people, if you just do those things, you're going to be in a very good spot. You're going to feel amazing.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said all the extreme ways. And people the thing is, the people who make it really big on the internet most of the time are the ones who are doing something super extreme. That's one thing I realized. We talked about you could be controversial and you could talk about this on this end, or you could talk about this on this end. I had a guy on my show who's got a huge following, and again, I forget his name. Over 500 episodes. I can't remember everybody's name off the top of my head. But he does like the sunlight diet, and where he's like, he moved to a country that has the most sunlight, and it's not from eating. He eats healthy and all that stuff, but it's about being in direct sunlight for like X amount of hours per day. And I was like, that's not possible for most people, for a majority of the world. But he's obviously amassed a big following because he has this extreme way of thinking. But it's really the basic little things like you're mentioning. You know what I mean?
I mean, just people are so unhealthy. Just doing those things. I mean, you're going to be in the top 2% of America if you do that for a year. Guarantee you're going to be amazing. You're going to feel good. You're going to look good. You're going to be the best you ever. And it's not hard to do. And that's the problem, is that people get caught in this vicious cycle of one extreme to the next. It's either do a lot or do nothing. When at the end of the day, it's about just making simple changes because it has to fit in your lifestyle. Now, I know the carnivore diet, like I'm going to eat only meat. Dude, you're not. Now, there are some people, I've been doing it for 30 years. I thought you said it one last. I'm like, you're an anomaly. You're an outlier. Because I am a zealot when it comes to diet. I've competed. I'm literally known for being the leanest guy on stage in a get lean contest. Okay, I can adhere to a diet. Long term, I cannot adhere to carnivore. There's no way I'm going to eat ribeye and friggin' eggs for the rest of my life. Sorry, not going to do it because toast is delicious. Yeah, it just is. So look, I'm not going to do that. A lot of people say that. Some people, I'm not going to say a lot, but there's a huge following for it. But like most people I see say, yeah, I did that diet, but I'm not doing it anymore. But I should go. You never notice that there's the carnivore challenge every January?
Yep.
And some people do it, but the same people next year are doing the carnivore challenge. I'm like, should a diet be called a challenge?
Yeah.
If it's challenging, is it really going to be something you're going to deal with?
Yeah, no. maybe for 30 days, maybe for, a month or whatever. Like, I think Rogan does it 1 month out of the year too.
Yeah.
But he doesn't, he's like, but he even says like, it's not something that you want to do all the time.
He does it as like a clean out, like, because, he likes to drink and do what he does. And I think he does it. And it is good for that. So the thing about the carnivore diet is it's super hypoallergenic. So if you have any food allergies, it gives you like a month for your body to kind of have a break from the allergies, which is kind of cool. I like it for that application. And I like keto for, epilepsy. They all have great applications. That doesn't mean that Becky trying to lose, a little bit of weight or just trying to live a little longer so she can see her grandkids. That doesn't mean that she needs to, give up having her Starbucks once a week. Like, come on.
Yeah, dude, I hear that. I hear that for sure. So I want to ask you a question I ask every single person on this podcast. It's a 2-part question. The first part is, what is your definition of success? And the second part is, what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
So the definition of success is relative to what your goals are. So some people's success is based on finance. Some people's success is based on altruism, helping people. Some people's success is based on the legacy they leave behind through their children. So for me, my definition of success is making sure that the world I leave behind and the legacy I leave behind for my children is in a place that makes them more likely to succeed. My entire life is based on building a legacy, not so people can say nice things about me because I'm dead. What do I care? My goal is to create a circumstance where my kids can benefit financially and also societally from what I did as a person. You know, where when you say Marc Lobliner, that people aren't like, dude, your dad was a prick. Like, I don't want to be the liver king. I did a video about that today and I haven't posted it yet. Like, this guy, his name, his family name will be stained forever as the guy who deceived and lied and then bragged about his earnings. I don't want to be that guy. I want to earn things, but I want to do it the right way. I want to do it ethically. I want to do it morally. And I want kids who I coach to say that I had a part, not even say it, but just to know that when they look back, they're like, you know what? That guy cared. You know, and I want my kids to have favorable memories. I don't want my kids to look back and see the bad part of their childhood. I want to see the good part of their childhood. And I want my wife to be happy because she's Italian and they get really angry when they're not happy. And you know, I think that three things to lead to success is before you do anything, I think you need to think, what will this action lead to? Like, every decision you make, you need to think of the repercussions from that decision. So that's number one. Is it's better to make decisions if you think about who it'll hurt, who it'll impact, and what it'll do, you know, first and foremost. Another way is to have a strategy, have a plan. Start every day with a to-do list, a task list. If you get done with that task list, find new tasks. Make sure that you accomplish what you need to accomplish and then create new work. Because again, if you don't finish what you did, you're not going to ever finish it. And if you don't start new tasks, you'll never have new goals and new things to conquer, so to speak. And the third thing would be just shut the hell up and work. You know, a lot of people talk about doing things, but they don't do it. You know, I'm a ready, fire, aim kind of guy. A lot of people spend all this time planning. I understand if you're a Navy SEAL, that makes sense. But if you look at the most successful business owners, they're usually the craziest mofos you'll ever meet because they have an idea and they go to work. They don't sit there for 12 months ideating and analyzing. They're like, hey, I'm going to do this. Let's get it done. Paralysis by analysis has killed many a person and many a brand. So what you need to do is, instead of talking about it, be about it, go out and do it.
I love it, man. I love it. And so I wrap up every interview with the same question, but before we get there, how do people follow you? What's other good stuff? How do they look into some of your supplements and the products that you have?
Cool. So tigerfitness.com is my website. It sells all kinds of cool stuff. If you follow me on social media, it's at Marc Lobliner, MarcLobliner. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/tigerfitness. Not with that, /tigerfitness. I had to think about the channel. And I mean, there's so many good brands. So I own a brand called Ambrosia Collective. We have the number one selling protein at Vitamin Shop, which is Planta. The Outright bar is mine. That's the number one bar at Vitamin Shop, as well as GNC. Get all that stuff on Amazon as well if you're an Amazon person. And MTS Nutrition is mine as well. So I think that's the best place to find me.
I love it, man. So Marc, I wrap up every single interview with the same question. Since the show is called The Growth Now Movement, that question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Ooh, biggest moment of growth is when my daughter was born. Because before that, my wife had a job. I had a job. Like, if I failed, it was like, all right, well, I guess I'll figure it out. But when your wife is not working and when you have a daughter, it's fight or flight, because you don't have to just support yourself. I'll live in a box. I'll live in my car and shower at gyms. I don't care. But when you have to worry about the future of a human and also another human that you're cohabitating with, who's going to dedicate her time to raise and nurture that other human, man, it is pressure. So that is that fight or flight that a lot of people thrive on. A lot of people can become overwhelming, and it's overwhelming for everybody. I don't think anybody's been like, man, this is gonna be easy. But I think that's when I realized that, okay, I'm no longer a kid anymore, and my actions impact more than just myself.
I love it, man. Mark, this has been a ton of fun, dude. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom with my audience. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.